All right, and welcome to Hyperspace Heroes. This is Brown Leader signing in. Who else do we have tonight?
Brown 2 is here.
Brown 4 signing in.
All right, and we have a special guest with us tonight, Ro. But before we get rolling, I think we're going to have to play this courtesy of DB.
Podcasting, the final audio frontier. These are the legends of Brown Squadron.
Our computer is picking up a strange signal. Here, sir, you better take a look at it.
The ongoing mission? To explore the Star Wars universe and other nerd culture topics. To seek new content and new cantinas, bars, and lounges. To boldly annoy Scruffy by making too many bad jokes. Welcome to the Hyperspace Heroes Podcast.
All right, and once again, welcome. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to two guys in particular real quick before we get rolling with this episode. And you heard the voices of one of them in that intro there, which is Brownie 1 and Brownie 1.5. Both those guys had birthdays yesterday and today, and were big parts of helping us get this podcast off the ground. As I said, Brownie 1.5 does the vocals for that there in the intro. And they both do the vocals for the outro, which, guys, we're going to have to work on some graphics for that because all we have is audio at this point. But yeah, this is our first live stream. Welcome to Hyperspace Heroes.
Is that the first time we've used that visual?
I used it once on one of the other YouTube videos from ICCC.
Okay.
I think on one or two of those when I was editing those earlier.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot that I had done that. So, I mean, wow.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, so it was a good excuse to use it. So Ro is from the Scarif Scuttlebut Podcast. He is kind of the organizer, the genesis behind that, and also the Red 5 Network. And before you get rolling, Ro, I want to say that I truly appreciate following you on social, because if anybody defines hustler in terms of just putting out your brand and meaning that you hustle, not that you're a hustler, but that you're constantly you're on there constantly. You're just pushing your brand constantly, and I totally appreciate that. The effort
depends on who you ask too. So. Well, I appreciate it. Brad and I started the podcast in 2019, and just to kind of have fun and connect with other nerds. And talk a little Star Wars and some other stuff along the way. So we're just having fun, spreading the word, and meeting awesome folks like yourselves.
Yeah. So we had the benefit of first coming on your show last year. I think it was during Andor. Scruffy and I made an appearance. And then when you restarted Sentry Mode, you brought me on for, I think, the first episode of that. So that was a lot of fun. And you were gracious enough to give me the T800 question. So let me drag on long enough to get that one. So, but yeah, we wanted to have you back on tonight. And for this first live stream of ours, this is episode 66 of Hyperspace Heroes. Normally we're an audio only podcast, but we figured it was time to join 2005 and get on YouTube. So,
welcome.
Yeah. So main topic tonight is we brought you on to talk about Battlestar Galactica. But before we get in there, we are kind of a Star Wars centric podcast. I know as you are as well. So with all of our first time guests, we like to ask, what does Star Wars mean to you?
Wow. So seems like I talk about Star Wars a lot. And when I have that question posed to me, I should have like a very quick answer, but usually, I was just talking to somebody on the show that we dropped today. Star Wars for a lot of certain people, it hits you in different ways emotionally, and I think for me, Star Wars means a lot. It obviously, I mentioned, starting the podcast. It means friendship. It means family. It means, getting together and obviously talking about this franchise that we've known for decades now. And I see, by everyone's background that it's kind of in our blood, it's in our DNA. On my show, I usually say, if you cut me, I bleed Star Wars. So what does Star Wars mean to me? It's almost like the Force. It binds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together, as Yoda says. But Star Wars is pretty cool. It shaped my youth. It shaped my adulthood. It shaped my, career choices, and it's kind of all encompassing.
Very cool. Very cool. And DB, you want to do the follow-up on that?
What was your first Star Wars experience?
Going to the theater, probably not opening day, but it was a Sunday, because I remember leaving church with my mom, and I said, you know what, I really feel like I'm hungry. I feel like a hot dog. And my mom took me to this theater on Clark Street in Andersonville here in Chicago. It was called the Adelphi. And she just said, this movie called Star Wars is playing. Why don't we get a hot dog and just kind of sit down? So I grabbed a hot dog, sat down. The Star Destroyer went overhead. I dropped the hot dog along with my jaw, and the rest is history.
You are one of us, that is for sure.
Absolutely. That was the most epic thing I'd ever seen at that point.
Yeah. And then, Darth Vader, obviously you can see from my background, Darth Vader is my favorite character in any movie. I think Darth Vader is, besides the awesome looks, he's a very, interesting character from the beginning to what we know now. And seeing Darth Vader, come through that white door, it's funny because while all the stormtroopers were guns blazing, he just kind of waltzed in and just kind of inspects. I mean, you knew that he was in charge. He was too cool for school, as they say. So, Darth Vader won me over right away, from that first frame all the way to now. I mean, he's, Empire all the way, hashtag long live the Empire.
Right on. So, okay. So before we get into the Battlestar Galactica discussion, I thought we'd kind of do a warm-up question. And since this is episode 66, I figured we would talk about what is our favorite Order 66 scene in all of Star Wars, because there's more than one scene now. You've got the original from the movies, you've got Bad Batch, you've got even the end of Clone Wars in season 7, even though it was just kind of an Ahsoka's head. You've got Baby Yoda and Kelleron Beck, flashback. So you've got all sorts of different scenes. So let's go kind of round table, and Ro, we'll start with you in terms of what was your favorite Order 66 scene?
It's a tragic one. And I think, I put it in the DM kind of as a joke, but when you think about it, it's a very pivotal moment when it comes to Anakin Skywalker's life, his transformation. I think, when we hear about Darth Vader and what he did, even before the prequels when we were younger, he got rid of the Jedi. You hear all those stories that he killed all the Jedi and et cetera, et cetera. And then when we get to that point in the prequels where, he is kind of, cutting them down, and he walks into the school, and, this little kid is hiding, and he comes out and he's like, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. And he lights his lightsaber, and the way George frames that shot, the kid did pretty well too. The kid, you can tell that that lightsaber activation really startled him, and you can tell that he was like he jumped off a little bit, and it was pretty powerful. I think later on, we see that the holo recorders recorded some of that tragic those tragic events. and Obi-Wan and Yoda sees what he did. And again, I think that was a very pivotal moment as far as dark side connection to Anakin / Vader. That I'm gonna have to pick that because it's powerful, it's almost unspeakable, and it kind of hits a weird nerve. It's I don't want to bring the room down, but it does hit like a weird room of nerve because of the stuff that we see in the real world. But it's oddly, again, you asked me what my favorite scene is. I think it's not that it's a favorite scene, but I think it's something that really sticks in my mind.
For sure. DB, how about you?
When we discussed this being our topic tonight, I kept thinking, man, I really love the Keller and Beck segment that they've inserted with Grogu. But the more I think about it, the original montage, and not for the visuals, but the John Williams score that's underlying the whole thing. And not to get way too divergent nerdy here, but that particular piece of music has echoes of Samuel Barber's String Adagio in A. If you're familiar with Samuel Barber, he was a 20th century composer. And that actually, the String Adagio was used in the movie Platoon, if you think back to that. But it has shades of that in it, and it's so powerful, and you just feel what's happening to these poor Jedi getting massacred. And I think it's the music that makes me appreciate that montage the most. I've lost everybody with the Samuel Barber reference.
No.
Wow.
No, we're going deep, and when we get to mine, it's going to be completely sophomoric. But Scruffy, let's hit you up next.
Epic nerd point right there. I mean,
Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
Hey,
Way to ruin the curve.
We're 12 minutes in, and I didn't make a Trek reference on that, Scruffy. So
No, I'll give you that. Yeah. Okay. Here's my grade school version of this story here, and we're just gonna move on. I'll take my low score. I love the Rebels Bad Batch a lot. Being an original trilogy, growing up with that, I thought that was the greatest thing on earth. But I love Rebels. I love Bad Batch. So my favorite Order 66 scene was Kanan Jarrus or Caleb Dune watching Depa Billab's death. It showed us a different. It showed us for the first time. It showed us different Jedi and different scenes from different places. We're all used to the montage. We've all seen it many times, but this one kind of struck something with me in that he was able to get away, and with a little bit of help from the Bad Batch, was able to evade and move on to catch up with Ahsoka later on and continue the Jedi path.
Very cool. Yeah, so for mine initially, I was going to say the end of season 7 with Ahsoka, hearing everything for the emotional impact that you see it having on her, and the confusion and just the weight. The scene kind of imposes the weight of everything on her, I thought. But we got this in the mail not too long ago, and this kind of overrode it, which... we got this from the young man himself. We managed to get an autograph from him, from Ross, and calling us a cut above the rest.
Oh,
And,
that's awesome.
yeah. So he's a really nice guy, super nice guy. Reached out, found him on Facebook somewhere. He's in England, but yeah, so very cool autograph that we got from him. All right, well, very deep stuff, except for mine, and we're going to move on to the next topic, which is
before I wanted to add another one of mine, because I think a lot of my favorite Order 66 stuff does happen in the prequel trilogy. There's in episode 3, Isla Sakura's death was I love the way it was shot too. It was overhead, and you had George kind of move the camera as she turns around, and you see the clones shooting at her, but you don't see the actual content. You don't see the actual death because there's a kind of a leaf that kind of comes in the foreground to hide that. But you can see the shots, the glimmer of the blaster fire, and obviously coupled with the amazing John Williams score and the emotionality, the emotional weight of the things that are going on in that moment and surrounding, everywhere else that Order 66 is happening. I think, I think it's really powerful stuff.
Oh yeah.
That scene was very powerful in that you didn't see her death; you just knew it was happening, and the less was more. Less was more right there.
Yeah, kind of an older style movie technique, where you didn't always have to show the violence, but you got the impact of the violence. So
yes,
yeah, very very cool.
And a lot of people say that usually what you think of in your mind is a lot more powerful than what you actually see.
Yes.
And I think that definitely holds up in this case. I think the imagination plays some tricks with you, but it's the eye of the beholder, as they say.
For sure. Well, very cool. Any other thoughts on Order 66 before we move on to the main event to the show? All right. So the what we really kind of got together tonight was, we talk a lot about Star Wars. We're also kind of going through a dry period in terms of really no new content, although they've, done some announcements lately. Another movie, and of course the controversy of, well, what's it do to Filoni's movie with the new Mando and Grogu movie, and there's rumors of a trilogy and all that. But like we've said before, just let us know when the trailer's ready, and then tell us. Really, everything else is, we've seen Lucasfilm's record on movie announcements and actual results. But so we thought we kind of expand a little bit tonight. And I know that's kind of what you've been doing on your show as well, a little bit, Ro. You've been kind of diversifying a little bit into other areas of sci-fi and nerddom, nerd culture. And so we thought we'd kind of do that on tonight and talk about just do some comparisons. I know you're more of a fan of the original 1978, which we're fans of as well, but we're also big fans of the 2004 reimagining, as somebody put it the other day. Sure. Thought we would just kind of dive into that topic a little bit. And we also got some comments from online. We posed the question out there online today, and thought that we would just kind of start and dive into the topic. So 1978, the original, we've all got a fondness for it. It came from I think a great stable of, production team with Glenn Larson and Belisario, right? They had it was a whole Battlestar, you've got Magnum PI coming out of that group. You've got Buck Rogers coming out of that group. You've got just a whole BJ and the Bear of all things. Belisario also had, Quantum Leap.
Oh, don't mention BJ and the Bear, because that's Mrs. DB's childhood crush is Greg Evigan. So
really,
she lets me crush on Natalie Portman, so I let her crush on Greg Evigan. So it's a fair trade.
So it was a great stable, and Belisario even later on went on with Quantum Leap and Hawaii Five-0, NCIS. Some really good pedigree right there in terms of its production. You had Stu Phillips doing the composition, who was a really big name back then. And, I think obviously the biggest thing that hurt it was we only got one season.
And boy, was it a good one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Would you guys like to hear a little bit of that opening just to kind of get the
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We were waiting.
Yes. Yes.
Very
See,
nice.
that-
So
very nice.
majestic. Wow.
That was majestic. It had a grandeur about it. And second, maybe only to the Black Hole, that is my favorite sci-fi music out there besides Star Wars. Of course, that'll always be number one. But when you take Star Wars out of the equation, that has got to be one of my favorite right there.
Anybody else hear Patrick McNee's voiceover when you hear that?
Oh
music?
yeah,
Mhm. Yes,
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
absolutely.
absolutely. You know, Battlestar Galactica, the 1978 version, it really was Star Wars on TV before we got Star Wars on TV.
Absolutely.
You know, you had
Absolutely.
everybody working from ILM on this show in between stuff. So it's, you know, Star Wars and Galactica share a lot of DNA, and I love it. It, you know, there's, I know we're going to talk about it, but there's a special place in my heart specifically for this show. Every so often I do a rewatch of this series, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to say it's been a long time since I did a rewatch on it. So I've been watching the first few episodes. I think I got 3 episodes into it due to work and life
Sure.
popping up around here. But yeah, I forgot how awesome it was and how
There's,
dated it is.
Yes and no.
It's definitely a TV show for its time.
Yeah,
The disco-
absolutely.
the disco-y kind of nightclub that was there.
Sure.
That-
Yeah.
that didn't take anything from it. I absolutely loved it then, and I love it today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you've got the X-wing pilots with sideburns in Star Wars. I mean,
Mhm.
you're going to get a
Absolutely,
little of
right.
that in
Absolutely.
this for sure. Yeah, one of the things that I really loved about this, and you know, one of the reasons I went into the television business was because of Star Wars and the creative aspect of ILM. But you know, a lot of the on-screen props were actual television production like measuring scopes and equipment. There's a company called Textronics that's still around, and they do all the vector scopes and video monitoring equipment that were used in both Battlestar Galactica and in my industry, which is kind of cool. I mean, you know, nowadays I'll kind of look at some of the scenes on the bridge of the Galactica, and I'm like, you know, I recognize a piece of equipment. I'm like, oh, I just used this the other day, and it's kind of funny. But you know, back then, obviously, nobody knew what the inside of a broadcast studio looked like. You know, only a select few. But it was, you know, it was pretty cool.
That it was. So use it again, shared Star Wars DNA, because using props, using things from everyday life to repurpose. And what were some of the other things that you really enjoyed about the show from back then?
The cast.
Mm-hmm.
The cast was wonderful, and I think that's one of the downfalls for me about the new show. I mean, I really loved the chemistry of the core actors in Galactica 78. Richard Hatch, Dirk Benedict, Lauren Green. You know, even kind of like the side characters like Maren Jensen and Noah Hathaway. I mean, Boomer and what's the other guy is Jolly. I mean, they all kind of had some great chemistry and personality with each other.
You could really believe these people were friends in the workplace.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it went a long way with the believability, like you said, of you know, this ragtag, you know, group of humans, you know, scouring the galaxy to try to find you know, Earth. But, you know, I think what really plays on me for some of the episodes, you know, day in and day out, some of the other episodes during the series is how they relate to each other, the chemistry. You know, we all talk about the chemistry between Han, Luke, and Leia. But it's equally powerful here in Galactica. You had Starbuck, Apollo, and Boomer, which you know, you see some of the scenes that they're all in. You know, especially during the you know, right before the Cylons attack, or when they're all together, you can really tell that there's a kind of a subtlety an unspoken language between the actors and the way they relate to each other. It's really fun to watch.
Mhm.
It's something you don't see very often. You like you say, you see it in Star Wars, and more recently in TV shows like The Walking Dead. But that is a chemistry that doesn't happen very often, and when it does, it really makes the show come alive for you.
Yeah, and we in the Star Wars world we talk about a used galaxy, and obviously Galactica's got the same aspect. Again, shared DNA. You've got what's the artist Marquand. What's the
Ralph McQuarrie.
Ralph McQuarrie.
McQuarrie,
Yeah.
yes.
I was thinking the director of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, Ralph
Right,
McQuarrie.
right.
I mean, he designed a lot of stuff for both shows, and then later, like you mentioned, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. So it's again just a lot of shared DNA and a lot of familiarity when it comes to science fiction of the 70s. It's one of the 70s jewels as far as science fiction television goes, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, without
Very
a doubt. So if they hadn't ended after the first season, what do you think they would have explored? Because one of the things the 2004 edition really went into was the whole spiritual side, the religious side of the culture in that universe. Do we think we would have gotten deeper into that kind of a subject with the 78, or was back in 78 more, these shows were, a lot of the Larson and Belisario shows had some depth, but a lot of them were very surface level at the time. Because again, it was kind of a show of its time, right? We didn't have the depth of storytelling like we have nowadays in terms of, the more recent kind of decades, which is what we've wanted out of product. We've wanted, when the sequels came out, we were looking for, I think we were looking for more development of depth of character, than like what we got, or Andor's a good case, where, Ro, I know you're a huge fan of Andor, and just because it went more down the rabbit hole, of certain kind of things. Do we think we would have gotten that, or just it would have continued to kind of be more of like a late 70s, early 80s show?
I think maybe in the third year they might have gotten it. I think during that time, I think it was just still adventure. Even someone like Gene Roddenberry of the old Star Trek lore had to kind of sneak in some cerebral things in between the running and jumping and action sequences and episodes. I think, I think if you couple, that sort of like deep thinking spirituality into an adventure show, I think studios and the suits might give you some flack. But I think, for sure, if the show grew in popularity and maybe the third season might have started to, develop into that, there's just so many Cylon attacks you can stomach before you really want something new, especially because they had to, switch the footage back and forth and use it back over and over again.
Right.
But I'm sure we would have gotten some new sequences. But yeah, I mean, I remember watching from the new Battlestar Galactica, there was an offshoot series called Caprica, and that dove very deep into the spirituality and the religious aspect of Galactica, and not a lot of people liked it. I remember hearing some feedback from other people. I kind of enjoyed it because it was very interesting to me.
It was fantastic and got cut off way too early.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I did hear a lot of flack from a lot of people that they didn't like it. And it's a shame.
With the original 78 Galactica, going down the same path you're talking about, is there were some fantastic episodes that tried to delve deeper, like Planet of the Gods, but then there's the other episode with Red Eye, which is essentially a Western, because that was still kind of a dying trend in television. You were still coming out of Bonanza and The Big Valley and Ponderosa and those shows. I mean, Even Trek did it with a couple of episodes that had to be, westerns to kind of keep it grounded for the networks, and I think you're right. Had they been able to develop the show for a couple more years, they probably could have gotten a lot deeper topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's kind of use that as a segue, and we'll kind of switch over to the 2004 remake of Battlestar Galactica. And the one of the things that was mentioned before was the gritty, dirty world, and I think that was one of the things that there's one of our favorite pictures, right? So I think one of the things they did right in the remake was you talk about a dirty, gritty world. I mean, and the whole again, there were some things of its time in terms of social commentary, which was the burgeoning of network computers were everywhere at that point, and so they were kind of before the topic of AI that we're dealing with now. They were doing about 20 years ago, and dealing with that topic. And so the phones were wired, to the consoles, and the Dratus graphics, were kind of basic in terms of just dots and things, and it wasn't like a HoloNet projector in Star Wars, and there was a lot of manual switches and things, and I really enjoyed that. Not everybody was, uniforms were wrinkled and sweaty, and I think they did a lot of things right from that perspective. And there was a lot of love in the production. I think they were trying to do a good reimagining of the show. You had Ike and Ronald Moore, and DB, go ahead and make your Star Trek reference there.
If you watch any of the supplemental material or read on it, Ronald Moore was a writer on Next Gen, and he felt stifled by Roddenberry's rules. You can't have
Conflict.
Obvious romantic, sex, let's just say it, and look at Galactica, everybody's hooking up with everybody on that show. So, he felt stifled, and he said, this is my chance to break free and make it a real world with real people.
Oh, are we back? Okay.
Anytime we need a break from Scruffy, we just start talking Trek, and
I was actually dissing on Trek a little bit there, Scruff.
Yeah, you were, and I appreciate that a little bit.
If you go back and even look at Next Gen, it was very much a show dictated by the censors. It's very square and straightforward.
Well, they didn't want to take any chances. It was start of their UPN network, so they wanted to kind of keep everything copacetic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. Didn't think about that.
But you can definitely tell when Ronald Moore came on as a writer, because the stories got more in-depth and longer arcs, and characters showed up now, and then a couple of years later they show back up,
Right.
So that was just a change in storytelling from, say, the 70s with your very episodic adventure television. The 80s, you got a little bit bigger. In the 90s, I remember a show called Murder One, where they tried to do a trial through the whole season, and the public just wasn't ready for that. But it grew until you get to Galactica, where you've got 4 seasons of one story, essentially. So
pretty much.
So let's kind of tackle the elephant in the room in terms of the remake, which I know Rose wanting to get to, which is that Cylons should not be blonde.
No, damn it!
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody knows Cylons are redheads or red eyes, one of the two.
So kind of expand upon that point a little bit, Ro, and what in terms of what your disagreement with it. I mean,
I think some people, when it comes to Battlestar Galactica, I think some people might label me as a purist. I really, really love the original Battlestar Galactica. I tried watching the remake of Galactica like a couple of times. I just could not get into it. The whole blonde Cylon, they changed Boomer to an Asian woman. Starbuck is now a hot Bo-Katan. So it's like, all right, and it's fine, but I couldn't get into it. I think for me, obviously, a big part of it really was nostalgia, but I think I really miss the chemistry of the actors, as I mentioned earlier. I think the charisma of those characters that were part of Galactic in 1978 were missed, to me at least. And I just couldn't connect with any of the new actors. I couldn't connect with with anybody. So that's why I don't even know where I landed as far as where I stopped, because like I said, I tried it a couple of times, just couldn't go through it.
When I first watched it, I agree with you. I was just like, this is not my Battlestar Galactica, but I'm like, okay, try and watch it as, it's two different shows. And once I was able to do that, I really started getting into it because it was a much darker TV show than the original. The flight dynamics in space were more realistic. They were, you could run out of ammunition. I mean, I loved that part of the show, and it's like, okay, it feels a little more reality based. So by separating them, I was able to enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, I was in the same boat when the miniseries came on in 2004. I sat there, my jaw hit the floor, and said, "What is this nonsense? Where's the lasers?" Because they're using missiles and bullets and stuff.
Mhm.
I actually didn't get into it until it was probably starting its third season, and then I binged it, and now I own DVDs that look pathetic on my high def TV. But yeah, they are two different shows, and I agree. The original Cylons are so cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That whole human Cylon thing was hard for me to swallow at first as well. It was tough.
Yeah, I enjoyed it right from the get-go, and I was ready for the series as soon as the miniseries was over. The human Cylons, it took a little while to get a little used to the concept, but I think when they really went down the storyline of, they're in a way they were kind of like overly violent, overpowered children trying to figure out the source of their maker, trying to, just since the humans created them, like I said, it really went down the rabbit hole of that kind of stuff. The physics of flying, I absolutely love that, of space flight. I thought that was pretty cool.
One of the things that I remember seeing and just really my mind was blown was some of the footage of the dogfights, the space stuff. And there's a term in filmmaking and television, snap zooms, and we never got snap zooms in science fiction, laser space fights at all, because obviously a snap zoom traditionally is an error. But the snap zooms in the space battles, the flight stuff was so great. It actually, it added a look of authenticity that like somebody on the ground was pointing a camera upwards and shooting the battle that was going on. So it added to its to kind of a realism, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, it's funny because now I can actually put a name to it, because like the first season, Baltar, and the change they did with Baltar, I thought was, I was really questioning it at first. After the first season, he really grew on me, but for the first season, he kind of had a Perrin effect on me, and I was ready for him. I was ready for him to get thrown out a window.
I think that's a new name for that now. We're just going to call it the Perrin effect.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things I enjoyed was they weren't afraid to kill characters.
Yes.
And
Yes.
or even just like there were consequences of things like Gata getting shot in the leg when they were on that mission, and him using a cane for the whole rest of the show. And it was just they had such an attention to detail on certain little things when it came to storytelling. It was kind of like Andor for me back then. I think I was looking for something more. I was at that time, and Battlestar just happened to be it. It was my Andor in a way, because it scratched that itch for a deeper, darker story. And they definitely went way deep into the whole religious spirituality side of things. But yeah, Baltar the first season. It took me a little bit, but after I got over the Perrin feeling eventually, and kind of moved on from there.
Now, was it season 2 when you and I started really talking about it and getting excited
I think so.
about it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And thankfully, and I will say too, the other thing that they were able to accomplish that the original wasn't, was they were able to finish the story, which I was very, when season 4 was up in question, they didn't know if they were going to get the funding, if Sci-Fi was going to continue it or not, I think. And
that was stressful.
It was, because I was just like, can you just finish one of the versions, please? Just one of them. don't give us another 1980.
So
and,
Oh God,
bro, so you've never seen the ending of the new version?
No, I think I got to like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes of the first season.
I love the ending of the new version. And like I said, don't get me wrong, the classic will always be my favorite. Like I said, when I look at them, I see them as just 2 different shows. I don't see a reboot.
Brown Leader kind of alluded to this. They're both shows indicative of their era of television. Like, a lot of people, like you wrote, didn't like the restructuring of the characters with gender swaps, race swaps, whatever. But I watched both the pilot movie and the miniseries this week. And like, the original was very much a show of its time, where all the main characters got along and had each other's backs, much like, say, Trek in the 60s, right? And Lauren Green is just phenomenal as the patriarch of this whole thing. So stoic when his own son gets blown out of the sky, he tells the president, well, that was my son,
Yeah.
And like, here's Ty, who was the right-hand man, do whatever the commander says, very, very loyal. And then in the reboot, you get this drunken XO as Ty, and that's his demon the whole show. Well, till later on. But they really, I mean, they in the reboot, not everybody got along. Starbuck and Apollo couldn't stand each other for a while, whereas they were buddy. And then I was looking at the original Boomer, who just seemed to be like, I'm buddies with these guys. They're always getting in trouble, but I'm going to go along because they're not listening to me, And then Boomer was just something totally different in the reboot. She was kind of a young green person early on. And then again, her story changes through the show. But my point of my long ramble is they're both great in different ways,
And DB, something you had mentioned the other day when we were talking about this was that, and on your line of thought right there, is they brought so many of the secondary characters to the front, and developed their storylines so much. Chief Tyrrell, just the president's aide,
Billy.
Really?
No, not well, Billy a little bit, but then the one that replaced.
Oh, the second one,
the second one, Gata. Who's a deck officer. They brought so many of those characters forward in terms of just giving them their time and their development and how it impacted the story overall. And not characters would make mistakes and it had repercussions, deadly repercussions sometimes. And as for the character changes, at first, no Dirk Benedict as Starbuck. I was kind of like, but I think Katie Sackhoff, I didn't mind it. I ended up enjoying it because I think that it had kind of a little bit of a Ellen Ripley feel to the character.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
It wasn't just a gender swap to be a gender swap, because back then that was still kind of in the early days of them really starting to do that in shows to make them more modern or whatever the reason was. And in her, I didn't mind the character. I didn't end up minding the character because it wasn't just a token thing. They really gave the Kara Thrace role quite a development. So
I liked that even early on. She was still the gambling, cigar smoking Starbuck that Dirk Benedict was, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and then her on again, off again feud with Ty was hilarious. I mean, just getting sent to the brig for punching out her commanding officer. You know, it was just, yeah. I mean, it had its flaws like any show does as well. But I think they put a lot of heart into it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but Glenn Larson was a consulting producer on the whole show.
Was he?
Yeah. All the way through. So at least, they had some of that, the original team, helping create it.
And are we sure that happens? Because I know Belisario is credited on the new Quantum Leap, but he has nothing to do with it, and he doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I know, and I think some of those are listed as like created by. I was looking at some other lists researching for this episode, and no, they listed him as a consulting producer for the show. So yeah, I was happy to see that. One of the things that I also I posted on social, I think, I don't remember if it was yesterday or today, about asking people for their thoughts around, our fellow pods and everything, and out in social media, and got some feedback. So Rule the Galaxy podcast, some friends of ours, thought I liked the 70s version better, but that was just me reminiscing. Once I watched some of that and then started watching the new version, I changed my mind. The new series is better. So it sounds like
I saw that. Yeah.
From a certain point of skew, never watched the new one, but watched a lot of the original series. Dirk Benedict was great, and we had all the BSG toys. Those Cylons were pretty menacing to a young boy like myself at the time, without a doubt. And I think we're all testaments that we did not choke on missiles.
It was close, but no, it didn't happen.
Hey, I know I've told this story on the podcast before, but when I got the Viper and the Raider, they had the non-launching missiles, and my dad took those things apart and whittled off those fins so I could shoot those missiles. I still have them, by the way, 45 years later.
Why are they not out right now for this show?
They have not been properly cleaned. I'm sorry.
That is my goal. Sometime in the next couple of years, I want an original Viper and an original Raider.
Book of Alfie, who's part of the Rule the Galaxy podcast. The 70s version will always have a special place in my heart, but the newer series is much better. And he sent a gif of
So say we all.
Henny G, or goes by Milkweed Dairy Day, remake all the way. The tone is really gritty yet compelling and kept you on the edge of your seat in most episodes. I also really like how President Rosalind represents a spiritual perspective, while Adama is almost the opposite, approaching it as a calculated pragmatist. So say we all.
That is a wise man right there.
So say we all.
So let's see. I think I'm pretty sure there was other ones, and sorry about my spelling of Feltercarb or Felgercarb. I was at work when I was typing that, and I'm like, that's how I remember hearing it was Feltercarb, and I'm like, oops.
I had to fact check you.
Yeah, no, by all means, do
Excellent.
it. Fact check me, absolutely. So, but yeah, so those were a few of the comments, and I think I know Scott Rifen also put his vote in for the classic and sent a link for a podcast all about the original series called Colonial Movers, a classic Galactica podcast. So, and if Rifen's recommending it, then is definitely something you should probably check out. And
do you know where that name comes from?
Of course we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you do, Ro. It's one of the ships in the fleet, the Galactic Movers.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Scuttlebutt prefers the classic by the Lords of Cobol. So Nobody You Know, original series was cut too short. Newer stories went on about one season too long. There's a great Robot Chicken clip that is about the writing. So, and he puts a link on that. And
Nice.
yeah, so
I forgot about that one.
And then TC Rastani, After Hours TC, love the original show. Wish they went longer. So, yeah. So there's some of the comments from. Oh, and I have one more, And if we don't play this is a sound somebody sent in a voicemail, and you could probably guess from who, because he likes to send in a lot of voicemails to a lot of podcasts. So let me find that here. So let's get through this.
Howdy, squadron mates, Brown Squadron. This is Brown 5 Spotchka and Roe from Scarif. So my pod friends are going to be having a discussion on Battlestar Galactica, both the 1978 and the 2004 reimagined series. And well, the question I'm seeing posed that Brown later puts up, tell us which one you like better and why. Well, I think most all of my pod friends know that I don't favor not just Star Wars. There's a lot of things that I don't favor one over another. And even with BSG, there's two different tellings of these stories. I grew up with the originals, as did all four Ians. And then going back and learning that there was this, it was going to be not retold, just reimagined. And I went into it just the same way I go to any next Star Wars. Tell me a story. And seeing exactly what, it really went over the top for me in the bestest ways. Growing up with Dirk Benedict as Starbuck, and then seeing that Starbuck was reimagined as a girl, as a really badass. I bought into her lock, stock, and barrel. Just wow. And Edward James Olmos as William Adama. Just wow. It floored me. I still go back every now and again because I got them both digital in a file on my external hard drive. I love them both. And I know the Reimagine doesn't sit too well with Roe. My only suggestion, if I could humbly give one, is just open yourself up to the story and just go in with the wonder of it and get lost in it, because it's fantastic. The 4 seasons of it, I must have had it go around, at least a dozen times, if not more. It's just, to me, and I say it on in the cafe with Jeff, that good is sometimes an opinion, bad is sometimes an opinion, and we can agree or disagree and still be friends and meet on the same side or the opposite sides, whichever it may be. But that's my thoughts on Battlestar Galactica. And I better believe this is going to turn up in my playlist because I want to hear all of this. I did one a while back with Nick, Backyard TARDIS, on the original BSG. So I'm looking forward to this one for sure. Until then, I'm obligated to say, long live the Empire.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh man, I love that about Spotchka. Just tell me a story.
Just tell me, yeah.
Tell me a story.
Yep.
He knows
awesome.
me. He knows me too well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows a lot. All of us too well, I think.
Us all. Yeah.
Yep.
I guess that's the that's the other side of podcasting. I mean, we put our feelings out there for people to kind of latch onto, wear our emotions on our sleeves, as they say. Yeah.
Yep.
Can we just all agree that in both versions, Galactica, the ship, is beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That is one cool design of a flying space alligator.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that ship, though. It's a gorgeous ship. And I don't know if Ralph McQuarrie. What's that?
I don't know if the original will always be my favorite, but both of them are just epically awesome.
Yeah, I might lean towards the original too, just because it's got that 70s feel. But I don't know who designed it, if that was McQuarrie or if that was Dykstra or whomever, but it's a great design.
I did like one of the additions they made for the reimagining, though, which was they brought the landing parts into the body whenever they would
Oh,
jump,
yeah.
whenever they would jump. I thought that was kind of cool. And one last comment from me on this whole space thing, which I absolutely love. There's an episode where they attack the resurrection ship and they have to strafe it, and they can go inside the infrastructure while they're in space. And you just see them literally, they fly in. And actually, I've got a little demonstration piece. They, it's not the old classic, just swoop in and fly. And, but what was cool was they fly into the infrastructure, hit the thrusters, turn sideways, and just hold the gun down while momentum carries them through the length of the ship. And then they hit the thrusters, straighten back out, and out they go. And I thought that blew my mind. That blew my mind when they nailed that, because if you're going to strafe something in space along the length of something, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Momentum can carry you along. So it was attention to detail was one of the big things I loved. But yeah, there's no really wrong answer. I mean, there isn't. You love what you love, right? And I know for me, I've been telling these guys for a while now, when it comes to ranking things, in 2023, I kind of changed my opinion a little bit in terms of, because we're always, as podcasters, we're always like, this show's better than this one, and this is why, and blah, blah, blah. And it dawned on me that I'm like, there's certain things now I can't include in the rankings. So if we talk Star Wars and we're talking movies, I just can't include the OT anymore in rankings, because the OT was the original. It was what spawned the whole universe. And so to try to rank it to anything else that's been created after is really kind of, in my opinion, unfair.
It's a plane of its own.
It is. It's because without that, you're not going to have the rest to judge. And when it comes to streaming, I'm a Mando stan, and I'm the same way with Mando. I just don't judge Mando compared to everything else, because that got us the rest of the streaming. The success of Mando kept Disney Plus and Lucasfilm generating more content for us. So, third season, love it or leave it, whatever. Everybody's got their opinions. But, for me, I just don't throw Mando in those rankings anymore, because without it, we wouldn't have everything else to judge. And to me, this is kind of the same thing for Battlestar. The classic is the classic. And yeah, we can kind of chuckle and laugh about the 70s special effects and everything, and the disco and all that. But without it, we wouldn't have. I mean, it was in that wave with Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar, Buck Rogers, that really kept us going. It kept us nerds loving sci-fi. It gave us more when we didn't have that much Star Wars.
Absolutely. I say that when Star Wars came out, it was very memorable. When they released the Battlestar Galactica pilot in movie theaters, I went to go see that too. And I think for me, that was like one of the most amazing experiences for me as a kid too, because the projectionist at the time had the volume up so high that when the Vipers launched from the Galactica, your seat shook. And I thought that was amazing. I'm like, oh my God, it was so great. It was so great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Long before they were engineered to do that. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that volume was up there, and the Vipers were flying all over the place, and you're like, it was incredible.
The launch sequence was always awesome. That was one of the best things about the original, was the launch sequence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the original does have something the remake does not. And I can sum this up in 2 words. Jane Seymour.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Dr. Quinn, long before she was Dr. Quinn.
One of my original crushes on TV growing up, for sure. Just don't tell Mrs. Brown Leader that. So.
Hey, we already brought up Greg Evigan.
That's true.
Foreman, so we've gone down this path tonight. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, I don't know how you feel like we've kind of talked it out, and any other comments about either series before we get rolling?
I think, I'm still waiting. I will be waiting fervently for an invitation so we can talk about Galactica 1980.
You know what?
Yes.
Oh, should that be our first live stream dumpster fire episode?
Yes.
in our we did a previous episode. We did a dumpster fire episode where we talked about Star Wars Resistance for a whole episode.
You know,
Yeah, that was tough.
Galactica 1980. What was it? Boxy, and what was the other character's name?
Daggett.
Deck.
No.
No, the Deck. I want to say Decker, but no.
Bo and Luke Duke.
Well, no, I was say
There you go.
they are the Coy and Vance Duke
Yeah.
of the Battlestar Galactica show. I mean, Lauren Green with a full bushy beard that outlived everybody else on the show. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, we did get that final episode with Starbuck, so there was something redeeming of the show.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. Well,
I'm looking at pictures of it right now. Oh, wow, that's so bad.
Have we ever made a Coy and Vance Duke reference on this show before?
No. This is the first. Thank you.
that's an absolute first for sure. So,
And we'll be the last.
yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. So Battlestar Galactica 78 versus 2004. And both have its merits. So okay. So let's switch gears now, and we'll move into our next segment. And by the end of this segment, we did not assign a DB's Blockbusters last episode.
Oh, yes.
So by the end of Collection Corner, you need to have what our subject will be for the next DB's
I've got a softball for you tonight. So.
Okay. All right. So let's move into Collection Quarter, which is where we talk about anything we've added to our collections and any collection news. I know I keep sending you guys Star Wars toy collector posts on things.
Do you? I blocked you.
I'm sorry, I haven't seen anything in weeks.
So, Scruffy, I know you've got the longest list, so why don't we start with you?
2 comic books.
Wait,
That's
2 comic books?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I picked up this last.
Are you for
week,
real?
This last episode, yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't think I'm missing anything.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it's 2 comic books.
All right, Ro.
Done.
Have you added anything? Because I know you've got a collection behind you, and
Sure.
What's like a key piece of your collection, or what is something that you've added recently?
2 little things. I think I've slowed down a little bit on my purchasing because maximum saturation back here, if you can tell. But one of the things that I really when I see them, anything having to do with the Empire, OG stuff. I happen to pick up Target has this cool line of ships and figures, but really the ships, I think they're called something Squadron.
Micro Galaxy Squadron.
Yes. And I picked up a couple of ships, but I was gonna Scruffy, I was gonna send you my my mailing address, and I was gonna ask you to ship that Tidarium shuttle to me. Use an old Jedi mind trick, but I did happen to pick one up from that line, and it's beautiful. It's weathered. It's die cast. It's posable on the little stand, and I got a couple of them. Couple of these ships are beautiful. I think last week I posted a Twitter post, and I just said, just dropping a Shuttle Tidarium appreciation post, and you can imagine how many people agreed with me that this is their favorite design, favorite ship in the OT, and it was wonderful to kind of reminisce about the ship, and it's great. Another addition, which I find curious, is this, and his designation is RO4LO.
Oh,
so
that is very cool.
I'm canon. Ro is a droid.
That's awesome.
Where did you find that?
Thrift store.
Hey, Ro.
Are you serious?
In your honor, I have your figure.
There you go.
Nice.
But you know what? He came with he came in a set, because I also have the set when I bought it retail back in the day. But I found this guy loose at a thrift store. I'm an inbox collector, so I don't usually take a lot of my stuff out unless, like when I was in college, I used to buy 2 of everything. But then
yeah, that's us today.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
I need to find one of those.
Well, if I ever
That's
come
nice.
across, I'll grab it for you.
They
But,
came in a 3-pack with R2 and 3PO. I think it was a Force Awakens
right.
Yes.
3-pack.
Yeah, and I've got that in the office. But I found this loose, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get serious about finding one for the Astromech collection, which is kind of behind my head right there, in that little cabinet.
Cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. Very cool. DB. So DB and I both got our Christmas presents from Scruffy this couple days ago. And should we hold up the Tarkin at the same time?
Oh, let me grab my
Oh,
target.
yeah.
Hang on.
So
Yes, I opened up a can of worm for you guys.
So-
I forget we're actually visual this week.
I
People
know,
can see
right?
us. Are you ready?
yes, go for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
the Gentle Giant limited line, and
Very nice.
yeah, and I don't
Brownie
know.
4 has tried to steal mine already. She wants it to go with her Barbies.
Well, yeah, the Barbies need somebody to boss them around, right?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
He's gonna be running the Barbie house in no time.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have the Barbie Dream House. We have the Barbie Dream Death Star. But,
There we
you
go.
know,
That's hilarious.
That's
What else was in your package, DB?
I had a couple of Funkos and a little golden book of the Phantom Menace, which is ironic since I gave both you guys the faithful Wookiee little golden book.
Mhm.
And Scruffy went right for my heart and gave me a couple of original Burger King glasses from the original Star Wars, which I had none of. I have a couple of full sets of Jedi. I have most of the Empire, but I had none from the original Star Wars. So they're taking their place on the shelf.
Very nice. Very nice.
I got some feedback from Andy over at Chronicles, and I think I might. It's going to take a while, but I might get rid of a lot of my Black Series and then put up some of my vintage stuff. I mean, I've got 3 sets of the original Star Wars Burger King glasses, and then two of those menu. What do you call it? The translights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got those
Oh, nice.
as a birthday present from a good friend of mine. I've seen them on eBay for like $2,000.
Mhm.
Holy
They're
moly.
pricey.
Yeah.
I want one bad, but not that bad.
From the
But-
original, from 77, 78-ish.
When did those glasses come out? Yes.
78,
Maybe
80, and 83.
Right. But yeah, I've got a couple of glass
Wow.
sets from that. But there's a lot of the vintage stuff that I have. I live in Chicago, and we had almost won the rights to open up the Lucasfilm Museum of Narrative Arts, but some stupid tree hugging activist got a hold of the whole plan and kind of nixed that. Thank you very much, friends of the park. But
I'm sensing some hostility.
yeah, just a little bit. But
yeah,
I'm
already kicking some of that hostility.
but I've got enough stuff in 3 locations to probably start my own Star Wars museum. And
I think between the 3 of us, yeah, I think we
can do it.
Yeah, I think we could easily.
We just need an investor or 2. Maybe we, Scruffy, you can get a hold of maybe MJ, Michael Jordan, and see if he would donate.
I'll get right on that.
Excellent.
I'll shoot him a text right now. I'm sure he'll answer me in just a moment.
Just tell him his old steakhouse on LaSalle here in Chicago is open, and it's got 4 levels. We can each obviously furnish 1 level, but put a nice gift store on the main level. As people start to come out, we'll make the money back real quick.
Yeah, that's genius.
I'm in.
Nice.
I'm in.
Brown Leader, you're going to have to clip this clip out as part of our business plan then.
So I'll finish off real quick. And so little golden book of Mandalorian. Yeah. And the fact that they're even coming out with little golden books is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Definitely very nostalgic feel right there, going back to our youth. And since I got this new one, Scruff, I'll be over just like last week to tuck you in, and I'll read this to you as a bedtime story. So
excellent.
I
can't fall asleep till you do.
And then yeah, the rest of the bag was filled with pops. I do enjoy my Funko Pops. So one of the coolest ones, a Cad Bane, Cad Bane, Ahsoka, Fennec, Bo-Katan, Starbuck, whatever you want to call her, and then the cool one, which was this one, which was the Vader in his chair, that was kind of cool. So
Nice.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we've all added to our collections recently. So very cool. And yeah, before we wrap up and get out of here, Ro, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and say hello there?
Sure. All you have to do is turn over to your smart speaker and tell Siri that you want to play the latest Scarif Scuttlebut podcast. We're available wherever you find your other favorite podcast, part of the Red 5 network. Check the rest of the team out at bio.link/Red5.
Very cool. Very cool. And I do want to point out too, so I've been adding the stickers to the water bottle, and I do have a space right here, Ro. If you want to send a Scarif Scuttlebutt.
Absolutely. I got them right here. Let's go.
All right.
Hey.
We'll add that to the water bottle. So, was there any ICCC news? I forgot.
We got tickets.
Yeah,
I think Scruffy.
Yeah, we got tickets.
All right.
I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. Well, before we do sign off, Ro, for coming on the show, every guest becomes an honorary member of the Brown Squadron, and with that, you get a flight designation and a call sign. And so, for joining the crew, you're now Brown 35, and GT is the call sign, and where that comes from is Mr. Gilbert Taylor. So Gilbert was the cinematographer for A New Hope. And I figured with your background, I thought that would be kind of a very cool call sign.
That is very nice. I'm honored.
Yeah. He also did what movie, Scruffy? What are you famous for singing on this show?
I'm not going there. Flash Gordon, but I'm not going there.
Flash Gordon and one of my all-time favorite movies, Dr. Strangelove. So...
No, I already know we're recording, so I'm not singing. He got me to start. Somehow he got me. We got started in it and then hit record before I realized we were recording. So it is forever out there.
Well, I've done the same thing. Yeah, I've done the same thing. Some of our guests start singing, and in subsequent weeks they become like little promos or little drop-ins. So yeah. So. Yep. The internet is forever.
It is, without a doubt. So,
before we get too far, I want to tie this in because we didn't assign DB's Blockbuster last week after we reviewed Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. And having watched the original Battlestar Galactica this week, we're going full nostalgia. Now we're going to watch Flash Gordon this week, 1979, 80 version. So next week, Scruffy will be singing the entire theme song as our intro.
No.
No. But if we're going to go full 70s cheese, we are watching Flash Gordon.
There we go.
So,
actually, just watched it 2 weeks ago.
Did you really?
Yes,
I haven't watched it in years. I'm kind of stoked. Because I need to see a young Pierce Brosnan, and Brian Blessed is in that too, isn't he?
Yep.
He played the Hawk guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I gotta watch that. So Ro, if you want to join us for ripping apart a really so bad that it's a good movie.
Ripping apart? No. That belongs on a special pedestal right here. It's
so
epic.
Yeah, we do a little segment called DB's Blockbuster because DB used to manage a Blockbuster years ago, and so we kind of go back into the archives and we find some fun movies and just do 5-10 minute reviews
or some painful movies.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good ones out there that people younger listeners just haven't been exposed to. So
Scruffy doesn't let it go that I assigned Battle Beyond the Stars.
Ro, have you seen that before?
Yeah, Battle Beyond the Stars.
Yeah.
Great movie.
No, not a great movie. I didn't even make it halfway through. I can't do it. I just cannot do it. Several times.
I remember my local Blockbuster. had a local contest when when Return of the Jedi hit the VHS market, and they had a contest like to do something in the store. My friends and I built the Millennium Falcon cockpit with lights and everything.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
I wish I had. I mean,
Oh, man.
this was obviously before everybody had cameras in their back pockets, but I wish I had pictures of it. But yeah, we won. Nobody else entered anything. We were like the only nerds in the whole neighborhood. So
Hey, point of trivia. Way back in the early to mid 90s, I worked at a Blockbuster in Libertyville, Illinois, not far from you.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also Scruff, you don't know this, but Roe was at Celebration Chicago as well when we were there. So, and that's when
awesome.
that's how you guys kind of started the pod, right?
Yeah, we started in 2019. It's funny because there's a lot of people that are part of the Red 5 network that that were here in Chicago before we knew everybody. You know, we've had some get-togethers locally here in Chicago for a lot of our friends, and you know, if you guys are not far, you know, C2E2 here in Chicago is in April, and then we're also having a Red 5 Network podcast get together, like a little meetup in October. Which again, if you guys are close, we would love to have you guys hang out with us, have some drinks and pizza, and talk shop.
Very
That'd be
cool.
awesome. We'd love it.
You had me at drinks and pizza.
Yeah, drinks and pizza.
And before we started, Ro, you were saying you have a live event coming up this Saturday that you're doing?
Yes. So, you know, usually we have the Scarif Scuttlebut Podcast has Scarif Live on Saturdays at 7, but we're going to be doing a series of shows on the Red 5 Network's YouTube. And it's really geared to kind of talk to other pods and give them kind of like a little bit of insight when it comes to professional development. There's a couple of, you know, pods that I know, you know, you talk about, you know, all of us really hustling to kind of get our brand out. You know, some of us, I want to say, you know, no matter how hard you work, you know, sometimes you kind of get jaded, you don't see results, or you know, you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? I just wanted to get together with a marketing podcast person and some other pods to kind of, you know, not guide them, but just at least offer suggestions and analyze kind of some of their marketing strategies and some of the things that they're doing, some of the things that they might not be doing that might be a good idea for them to start to do. And it's just kind of my way of saying, hey, everybody, check this out. We've got some information from other podcasts that that maybe have had some success in certain aspects that we'd like to share with anybody that wants to hang out in the chat and listen to us blabber.
That's very cool.
That's fantastic. Lift everybody up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we're all learning together.
We are, and it's a big enough space for everybody. It really is.
Hey, I'm just glad that, you know, we are broadcasting live with visuals, and we don't usually do this. I have not picked my nose once on camera.
Very nice.
That you remember.
Thanks, DB.
Oh, crap.
Thanks. I'm gonna have to go back and research the footage now. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think with that, I think that's a good jumping off point. Ro, thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you joining us for our first ever live stream. Thanks for the encouragement. We've been wanting to do this for a while. Both have you on and do the live stream, so it has definitely been good for us. And hope you had a good time. And welcome back anytime on the show. So,
excellent.
All right,
and definitely when we review Battlestar Galactica 1980.
Yeah, we gotta.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
That'd be awesome.
And so if you'd like to get a hold of Hyperspace Heroes, usually I'd say listen to the outro on this, but we got to do some DB. We got to put together some sort of little video for the outro on this. But it'll be on the audio version if you're listening to that, which will be out in a couple days. And just reach out to us on our socials. You can email us at brownsquadron@gmail.com. Any of the Twitter threads, Facebook, YouTube, just let us know what you think. Hit that reviewer on your aggregator choice or podcatcher of choice, and just give us those 5 stars because it does help. So with that, I think we're going to get out of here, guys. So one thing, so let's get I don't know what I was going to say there. So all right, so this is Brown Leader signing off for the crew, and you have been listening to Hyperspace Heroes. That's no moon.